Okay.
I think
Okay. Let's move away from Brexit, if you don't mind. We have got a few people in the chat who are able to ask their own questions. We try to keep it small as to not to disrupt our technology any further. Jasmine, I wonder if Jasmine is there, and if you are, you could switch on your camera and unmute yourself for me, because we have a couple of questions in a similar theme. Another similar one comes from Mark, and a further similar one comes from Cormac. Jasmine, why don't you ask your question to Mary Lou, please? Thank you so much.
Hi, lovely to have you here. So this is just kind of in relation, we kind of can't have this discussion without talking about the prospect of a United Ireland. So Brexit has made discussions surrounding United Ireland more prevalent, obviously. Despite this, in my view, these discussions are quite reductive, limited, and usually discussed in the binary in terms of community affiliation. I feel that this isn't realistic nor viable given the current circumstances, particularly the increase of people defining themselves as non-affiliated or other, largely those like myself who come from the Unionist community, but don't kind of associate themselves with that now and are more strongly considering the benefits of a United Ireland as a result of Brexit and other kind of issues. In this context, should there be a United Ireland in the future? Where do you see the place of Unionists and non-affiliated being, particularly in terms of political influence and decision making?
Thanks a million, Jasmine. Do you want me to answer directly, Thomas?
Yeah, certainly answer directly. That's fantastic.
Thanks so much. It was very nice to meet you, Jasmine, and thank you so much for your question. And can I say that I actually agree with you. I think there is a danger that this debate becomes not just binary and reductive, but that that if we're not intelligent and thoughtful about how we frame it, that it could become polarizing. In fact, it will become polarizing unless we give it a good deal of thought and make it plain. And let me make it plain from my perspective and our perspective in Sinn Féin. This project for reunification needs to move away from the kind of thought or sense of like doom or threat or jeopardy and move into the space of opportunity and excitement. You see, for me, my analysis is this, Jasmine. When the island was partitioned now almost 100 years ago, what we got were two essentially conservative reactionary states. And the history books have been written about the North, a Protestant state for Protestant people, and everything that happened in really an apartheid situation in the North. But in the South, if we're honest about it, there was equally a reactionary impulse, and home rule, did become Rome rule. And long story short, everybody lost. Everybody has lost out because of partition. And I think, therefore, when we frame our conversations with each other around reunification, we have to have our eye on the prize, and the prize is a new Ireland. I'm not arguing for, a United Ireland that has 6 counties bolted onto the 26 and we continue on business as usual. I want all of us, and particularly your generation, Jasmine, to grasp this opportunity to ask the questions, everything from the practical day-to-day issues around public service provision. What does our economic model look like? What's our enterprise model look like? What does a world-class educational system look like across the island of Ireland? And how do we capture the incredible diversity, the incredible brilliance across our people right across the island? That's really what this is about. We have the mechanism agreed in the Good Friday Agreement for a referendum. And it runs like any referendum. It is 50% +1. That gets you the results. It gets matters over the line. But truthfully, we need to have a conversation that involves everyone. And I mean, even people who will say, I don't want a United Ireland. It's not my first preference. That's fine. I hear that. People will advocate for the union. That's fine as well. I hear that too. But all of us have to look at what are our options here? And in the event of Irish unity, for unionism, or for a young person like yourself, Jasmine, that comes from a unionist background, I wouldn't presume to know your current political views, but whatever they are, you need to have the space where you articulate that, not me. I wouldn't presume to speak on your behalf.
Mary Lou, can I jump in there as well? And thank you very much, Jasmine. You mentioned there Good Friday Agreement. All you need is 51%. In some ways, Mary Lou, is that part of the problem? Can you commit to not holding a border poll until you've had the kind of detailed and specific plans that you say that you want and you're moving towards, where you negotiate with unionist stakeholders? Or is the policy that you are pursuing, and some people might say a more effective policy, to keep it all as vague as possible until you're sure of 51% and then just call a border poll and deal with the consequences afterwards? Because you don't need to have these discussions. All you need is 51%.
Well, you need 50% plus one, which is a slight. Well, no. I mean, you need. You see, we all live here, Thomas. So this isn't about hooray, we won, boo-hoo, you lost. That's not. What good is that? We all live here, and I care passionately that everybody gets a fair opportunity in this country. That matters a lot. I also have said, and I mean, I'm on the record repeatedly in saying this to the current Taoiseach, the previous Taoiseach, and to others, and indeed to the British government, the planning for constitutional change has to start now. Like, there is no prize for people burying their head in the sand, pretending the change isn't underway. It is. And in fact, I was very interested to see Peter Robinson recently actually calling out, border poll deniers and saying, come on, people, that's just not real. So preparation is absolutely key. And these conversations, Thomas, that people will have around all of these issues, all of that is great stuff, because the astonishing thing is, once people know each other, talk about things that they care about, whether it's civil rights, human rights, democratic rights, what a free and fair society looks like, I will tell you without fear of contradiction that people will discover that they have way more in common than actually divides.
Let me address that, Mary Lou, if that's okay. I've a question from Rory. You talk a lot about a new Ireland, Mary Lou. If that happens, the new state will be far more British than the current republic. Will this new state, for example, be in the Commonwealth, officially mark the Queen's birthday, Remembrance Day, and 12th of July? Let me add, if you don't mind, a bit of context here. So I read again the Sinn Féin policy document towards the United Ireland. It talks about some of these things. For context, it says, in relation to a new Ireland, this could involve new symbols and emblems. It could involve expression being given to relationships between Unionists and the British monarchy. I wonder, Mary Lou, what your thoughts are. Do you, as the main proponent of a United Ireland, really need to get the ball rolling by setting out concrete proposals, something like a draft constitution, addressing those issues and then working from there, rather than what I hear quite a lot, which is general calls for the discussion to happen?
But that's not a general call, that's a really specific call. There's a specific ask for a citizens' assembly. There's a specific ask to clear space for those conversations to be had. So you've asked me about the Commonwealth, you've asked me about the 12th of July, you've asked me about relationships with the Queen. I mean, I'm an Irish Republican. Those aren't things that I am going to seek. But I absolutely respect that there are others who will seek those matters. And I'm making the most fundamental point that you have to have a place where that conversation happens. And by the way, in my experience of talking to people from the PUL community, as people from a unionist background, the question I have been asked more than flags and symbols and emblems, as important and sensitive as those matters are, has been around healthcare. Yeah. It's been around the NHS and the possibility of an Irish NHS. So I repeat the point that, and I would not be so arrogant, it's not for me to make the asks of unionist citizens for unionist citizens. That would be clearly farcical.
I understand that, Mary Lou, but is it not ever so slightly disingenuous? And I don't, with respect, you've been in politics a long time at the top level of politics. You know your Irish history well. You're certainly aware of many of the things that unionists value. It doesn't take a genius to work out what some of them are. Is it not up to you to make the first move and say, right, here's my proposal. In a New Ireland, we will, I don't know, put up the Union flag above Leinster House on the Queen's birthday. We will officially mark Remembrance Day or 12th of July. Is it not up to you to lay down a draft constitution, and then you will get Unionists coming ready to engage in that discussion?
Well, just to say to you, so we don't have arguments, and I'm certain many things. I'm not a disingenuous person, Thomas. The Remembrance Sunday is already marked in the 26 counties, as you're probably well aware. And of course, I'm aware of the importance, for example, of the monarchy to many, I imagine, Unionist citizens. In fact, I've met Prince Charles. He was kind enough to write to me when I was sick, actually. So I of
Really?
course I understand it. Yes.
What? Sorry, it's completely off. Was it a long letter or a short letter? I haven't seen that reported anywhere.
Yeah, well, no, he did. He wrote to me to wish me well and to say how sorry he was that I wasn't feeling well, and that he looked forward to seeing me. And so it was very nice. I thought very gracious.
Okay.
So I mean, anyway, that's kind of deviating from the point that I'm making.
Yes.
So of course I get that, but I want to come back to this again. I believe, you see, I believe in agency, in a person's agency, and I believe that people who are British are more than capable, well able to bring forward their view, their asks, their ideas, their initiatives in an all-Ireland context. And I want to reassure them, all of you who may be listening to this, that you will find in me and you will find in Sinn Féin a willing ear, a listening ear, and people who want to have that conversation.
Yeah.